Very pleased to have with us on the program right now, Daniel Payne of the Federalist. Daniel, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Cam. Doing good. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for your time. And great question that you're asking at the Federalist. If guns cause more violence, as the gun control advocates say that they do, more guns equals more crime, right?
Yeah, that's the idea, I think.
Where's the more crime?
Yeah. So we've seen in recent years, certainly under the Obama administration, a vast spike in the number of background checks performed. I think this year, last year we had 21 million, and that was up 2 million from the year before, I believe. And we've just seen pretty much a spike every year since 2002 in the number of background checks performed, and we have more firearms in private hands since they've started recording background checks in 1998. And the gun violence rate, the number of homicides, and the number of non-fatal incidents of gun violence have declined over that time. Since 1993, we've seen 40% less homicides, and we've also seen 70% less non-fatal firearm injuries. So the question is, why, if we have so much more guns circulating, so many more background checks being performed, haven't we seen a resultant spike in the gun crime rate? We haven't. We've seen a drop in it. That seems to put a serious flaw in this argument that the more guns there are, the more crime we're going to see.
Absolutely, and this goes for states as well as the national average, as you point out. These are not insubstantial drops in crime. 40% drop in firearm-related homicides between 1993 and 2011. Non-fatal firearm injuries dropping nearly 70% within that same time period. NSSF pointed out at the SHOT Show last week, while this is happening, you've got a 34% increase in the number of women who are target shooting. You've got a 25% increase in the number of women and youth who are hunting. More people are becoming law-abiding gun owners. More people are becoming gun owners. The violent crime rate is dropping. In any other world, Daniel, this would be a cause for celebration.
Right.
But if your premise is based on there's an epidemic of gun violence in this country, and we need gun control laws to check that epidemic, you don't want to talk about these numbers. You don't want to acknowledge reality.
Right, and everybody's interested in obviously the gun violence rate being down to zero. So we still have some work to do in that regard. But these dropping numbers seem to clearly point out that it's just not so simplistic, that you can't just take guns away and ban certain types of firearms and ban this and that and see this drop, because we haven't been doing that. We've seen more firearms and we've seen less gun violence. And I think that, I speak to a lot of folks who don't like guns. They're fairly reasonable people. They're not gun grabbers, but you also speak to the gun grabbers. And sort of across the board, you get this sensation not that they're simply concerned about gun violence, but that they don't really like guns, that it has less to do with lowering these numbers, or at least it equally has to do with that they are just kind of turned off by firearms. And I think that's a problem that a lot of folks have to address, that these aren't these, terrifying, devilish things. In the right hands, they are, vital to a healthy republic. And you can't just take them away and hope that everything's going to be better, because I don't think it will be.
Well, no, I don't think it will be either.
Yeah.
But I think that there's I think there's a mental block on some level, Daniel. You talk to and I agree. I mean, there are a lot of people who aren't gun owners who have this sort of maybe they don't even want to be gun owners, and so they have this adverse reaction to the idea of guns. But you know what? We own them. We own a lot of them. They're not going away. And first, we have to, regardless of where you stand on the issue, you got to accept that. We own a lot of guns in this country, and they're not going away.
Right, and even if you were to agree with some of these folks that we have to start widespread gun control and take away certain types of weapons, entire classes of weapons. From a practical point of view, it just seems pretty much impossible with a nearly 1-to-1, gun per citizen ratio. Where you're going to begin, you don't even know where to begin. So it just from a logical standpoint, it doesn't really seem like a plan that can progress in any meaningful way. And of course, we've seen that it's just not a plan that needs to progress in that direction.
Well, absolutely. You don't need to. You know, what does work, though, it seems, there was the Quinnipiac University economist who recently came out with a study showing that right to carry leads to a reduction in the homicide rate. Right to carry saves lives. Education and training, and not just, using education and training as a barrier to actually prevent people from exercising their rights, but really offering that opportunity to get educated, to get trained, to get range time, to not set up these barriers where you're paying hundreds of dollars in fees to become a legal gun owner. So instead, people, run the risk of being an unregistered or an unlicensed gun owner because they still want a gun for self-defense in a bad neighborhood. When you're willing to accept that even if you don't like guns, people have the right to own them, and people are going to do that, and you want to make sure that they're going to be educated, they're going to be trained. There's a whole other mindset that can come into play in these cities like New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and it needs to happen.
Right. And the idea is given to that, folks are, if they get their hands on guns, we're all going to have guns, and, nobody's going to know how to use them, and everybody's going to be shooting everything up. And, the first time I picked up a gun years ago, right before I fired it, my heart was jackhammering. It was a, very kind of tense, charged situation. But the more I went to the range and practiced and learned about them, the more I realized, they deserve a healthy respect, and with that respect and with training, you're not going to be this madman just spraying bullets at every opportunity that you get. You're going to be somebody who respects it, knows how to use it, and isn't some lawless, reckless owner. So that education is key to really training people to use them properly.
Talking with Daniel Payne of the Federalist. Daniel, you also say that we're now doing. We're now doing to ammo what we have been doing to guns for some time here. You point out Senator Kevin De Leon, who we just had on in a clip talking about 30 caliber magazines and 30 magazine clips. He has a bill proposing background checks for ammunition purchases. As he said, the ammunition is the fuel that feeds the violence. The gun itself is the delivery device. The gas, the fuel is the ammunition, and no one knows who buys it.
Scary, I know. This is where I get, you're trying to be reasonable, and you want to reach out to people and present a reasonable front. This is where you see how disingenuous and, just really slimy and sly this movement can be, because they're realizing, well, we can't just go after the guns right now. Obviously there's going to be a widespread negative reaction to that. So they're going to go for the smaller things, like with the assault weapons ban, which was, largely cosmetic, really nothing to do with assault or weapons. And now in California, they're going for the ammunition. First, they're going to place background checks on it, and then they're probably, I would imagine, down the road, starting to ban entire classes of ammunition. So they start small. As I pointed out, Walter Williams has correctly identified that these types of, denials of our fundamental liberties are always advanced as a single issue. They start small and they work their way up from there. So yeah, it's hard to have a reasonable debate with somebody who thinks that's a reasonable approach to gun violence or anything like that, because they're just being totally dishonest about their motives. They want to ban ammunition, but next year or next 5 years they're going to be like, well, why don't we just go ahead and ban some guns as well? It always works that way.
Yeah, it does seem to work that way. Hey, listen, Daniel, appreciate you coming on the program, sir. It's great talking to you today.
All right, thank you, Sam. Good to be here.
Absolutely. We'll talk again soon. Daniel Payne, writing at The Federalist here on Cam and Company.